cafe in Culver City, Los Angeles. It's a breezy, sunny day. Looming over the cafe nearby is a beautiful white stone mosque. One of the men is young, about 22 years old. The other is a bit older, in his mid-40s. At a pause in their conversation, the older man's face suddenly brightens. He will later tell police that it's at this moment his ears suddenly caught a sound he didn't expect to hear thousands of miles away from his home in Saudi Arabia. Two young men at the table next to theirs are speaking Gulf Arabic, his own dialect. He leans over and introduces himself. Police would later identify those two young men speaking Gulf Arabic as Khalid al-Madar and Nawaf al-Hazmi, two of the 9/11 hijackers. They were the muscle men who would overpower crew and passengers aboard a Boeing 757, plunging it into the Pentagon in Washington, D.C. The older man, sitting at the table next to them, who introduced himself, was Omar Albaumi. Today, 24 years on from 9/11, Albaumi stands accused of being a Saudi agent who helped the hijackers carry out the worst terrorist attack in history. He has always denied this. And for the first time, we can tell you the full story of Albaumi's links to the hijackers and how he was let go by British police, acting under the instruction of American agents.
The law at the time, in fact, had only recently been passed in the UK. The Anti-Terrorism Act 2000 meant that you could only keep terror suspects for a maximum of 7 days after arrest. And then after that, if you want to keep them longer, you must present some new evidence or charge them or release them.
Meaning from the moment of Albaumi's arrest, the clock is ticking. The police have 7 days. Over the course of that week, there would be extraordinary revelations, but also leads unfollowed and crucial information not shared. So what went wrong? I'm Taryn Siegel, a producer at The Story. From the Sunday Times, this is The 9/11 Suspect, Part 2, 7 Days.
So the Saudi mature student Omar Albaumi was arrested by British detectives David Campbell and Ian Dean in Birmingham on Friday, September the 21st, 2001. That's just 10 days after the 9/11 attacks.
Amardeep Bassey is a journalist. He's been following the story of Omar Albaumi ever since his arrest. At the time, Amardeep was a reporter based in Birmingham.
So Albaumi was a person of interest because immediately after 9/11, FBI agents were looking for clues. They found a parked car at Washington Dulles Airport, a blue Toyota Corolla. They linked that to the two of the Pentagon hijackers, Madar and Hazmi. That then led agents to San Diego. Now, once they got to San Diego, they spoke to locals, and a lot of people said that the two hijackers were often seen in the company of another Arab who looked a bit older, and they named him as Omar Albaumi. So they bring him down to London, to Paddington Green Police Station, where David Campbell is based. Now, David is a member of a unit called SO13. SO13 is the elite Metropolitan Police counter-terrorism unit. It used to be called the Bomb Squad, but it's basically the officers that deal with terrorist events in the UK.
Mm. And you and your partner, Liz Harris, actually managed to speak to David Campbell. Is that right?
Yes, we did.
Sometimes in interviews, it's like smoke and mirrors.
David didn't want the recording of his interview with Liz and Amardeep used on this podcast, so we've had an actor read what he told them.
A suspect will give you either what they think you're looking for or something that can divert your attention.
The smoke and mirrors would be even murkier for Campbell and Dean this time. Because even though they were the ones who actually arrested Albaumi and took him down to London for questioning, since this was an arrest about 9/11, outside of the interrogation room, it was the FBI who were running the show.
Really, the two British detectives are totally in the hands of the American investigators as to how much they know about Albaumi. So if you remember, I was talking about something known as the tunnel process.
Mm-hmm. The tunnel is an international protocol. It's used when foreign agencies, like the FBI, are working here in the UK. It meant that while al-Bayoumi's 3 properties in Birmingham were being searched by British police, who bundled up and labeled bags and bags of evidence, it was then all immediately handed over to the American investigators for analysis. It was then up to the FBI what they chose to share with Dean and Campbell.
The detectives had been given certain information by the FBI, some bit of background about al-Bayoumi, general things they want to talk about, but nothing specific, no great detail.
This interview is being audio and video recorded.
It's September 22nd, 2001, the first day of the interrogation. It's just past 8 p.m. and al-Bayoumi is brought from his cell into the interrogation room. Because the clock starts ticking at the moment of his arrest, detectives have 6 days left to find the truth.
The first day really is quite procedural, really, I suppose. They ask him if he's happy for the interview to be recorded. And straight away, Bayoumi says something quite telling in that he says, well, I'd need to get permission or speak to my embassy.
Let me ask them now if I can call, if it's okay for video or for audio or something like that. I'm not sure.
Okay.
He's talking about calling up and getting advice from the embassy for the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia in London, not the consulate. He's not talking about getting counsel from the solicitor who's sat right next to him. He's talking about the embassy, which isn't normal for an ordinary citizen. He doesn't want the interview to be recorded on video.
Okay.
He's happy for it to be audio. Obviously, they have to explain to him what the charge is.
We mentioned the reasons why you have been arrested, and those are because we believed you were involved in the preparation, instigation, or commission of acts of terrorism.
But then the nature of the questioning is quite soft, I suppose.
What are your interests? It was very evident last night that you're a family man. What are your other interests apart from that?
When I was in Saudi, I played squash.
We're not trying to trick you here. We're just asking you some basic questions. Where are you from? What do you do? And it's all very kind of informal. And you can see the 2 detectives go out their way to try and make him feel comfortable.
The officers learned that al-Bayoumi was born in 1957 in the village of Al-Hijra in Saudi Arabia. He moved to America in 1994 to San Diego to study English and eventually got a master's degree there. He was working for a private aviation company on loan from the Saudi Presidency of Civil Aviation. In October 2000, the company sponsored him to move to Birmingham and start a PhD in business management at Aston University. And yes, he also loves playing squash.
You can see they're feeling each other out. David and Ian are trying to work out, well, what is this guy exactly?
You spoke to David, to DC Campbell. What did he make of al-Bayoumi on that first day?
Not much. I mean, he said, there was nothing in his demeanour that suggested that he's some kind of big terrorist or somebody who's dangerous.
Well, he was, as I recall, quite a well-built guy. At no stage was he ever physically threatening at all. That just wasn't his personality. Originally, he was very quiet. He only talked when he was asked questions.
This interview is being tape recorded. I'm Detective Constable Ian Campbell.
September 23rd, around midday, al-Bayoumi is once again taken from his cell and brought into the interrogation room. They have 5 days left.
So on the second day, we start getting into specifics. And it's quite clear that DC's Campbell and Ian Dean have been given an outline of what the FBI suspect Bayoumi of doing specifically. When the FBI made investigations or made inquiries in San Diego in those days after 9/11, they discovered that Omar Albaumi had acted as a guarantor for a flat for the 2 Pentagon hijackers, Khalid al-Mihdhar and Nawaf al-Hazmi. They were the 2 first hijackers to arrive in the USA. They arrived in California in January 2000.
And al-Bayoumi acted as a guarantor to them when they arrived.
Yeah.
Did you stand as guarantor for anyone whilst you were at that address?
For 152?
Whilst you were living at that address, did you stand as guarantor for anyone else?
I'm not sure.
And you can see the tension rising.
I find it hard to believe that you don't remember undertaking this financial agreement. You don't just say to a landlord, I will guarantee this person, if you don't know who that person is.
Yeah, it happened.
Was it more than once?
I'm not sure.
A few hours later, they start to make some progress. Al-Bayoumi finally admits that he might remember a couple of men who he once acted as guarantor for.
Yeah, I remember now the guy, but it's not in my top of tongue. I think they came from Mecca, from Mecca City, from Saudi Arabia.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. Anything else? Keep going.
But look,
The two men from Mecca City in Saudi Arabia, who Al-Bayoumi is starting to remember he may have acted as guarantor for, the police know to be the two Pentagon hijackers. But Al-Bayoumi hasn't actually named them. At this point, he keeps it vague, saying there may have been a couple of Saudi men he might have helped in San Diego.
And then he talks about, or he's pressed into talking about, well, how did you meet these guys?
How did you meet them?
those guys, once I went to Los Angeles with Osama, American guy. Okay, he's Muslim also.
So Bayoumi travelled from San Diego, from his home in San Diego, to Los Angeles with a young Muslim convert who drove with him. And the way he tells it is, on their way back home, they decided to get something to eat on Venice Boulevard. And then he noticed two young Arab men, and he voluntarily went up to them and basically started talking, saying, "Who are you? I'm a Saudi as well."
They said we have been here for about 24 days and we want to go to English school and we don't know how to go there. And then I said, I'm in San Diego, I'm not from the city, and we going back now to San Diego. But if you need help or something like that, just call me. I think I gave them my phone number. And actually I forgot their names now.
Al-Bayoumi says he doesn't remember their names, but the detectives continue to press him until slowly he starts to remember.
Like knife or something like that.
Knife.
I think.
How would you spell that?
I think N-A-W-F, I think, Nawaf.
Okay.
I think.
Nawaf, as in Nawaf al-Hazmi, one of the Pentagon hijackers. DC Dean keeps pressing him. What about the other guy? Can he remember what they were wearing? What age they were? Al-Bayoumi says he thinks they may have been 22, 23. And then, 10 minutes later, Dean turns the questioning over to DC Campbell. And after hours of back and forth, misremembering, suddenly something shifts.
So I'll just hand back to Dave and we'll continue when we're...
What were their names again?
I think the first one, Nawaf, I think.
And the second?
Second one, I think Khalid.
Khalid?
Khalid.
Nawaf and Khalid.
This was the first major breakthrough.
3 days after that meeting in Los Angeles, where they exchanged phone numbers, Nawaf and Khalid, the two hijackers, would take Al-Bayoumi up on his offer. They would arrive at the Islamic Center of San Diego asking for him, and he would help them to find an apartment and open a bank account. Before they bring that day's interrogation to a close, DC Campbell has one more thing to say to Al-Bayoumi.
Do you not think it's strange us asking you specifically about these two men?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me put it very clearly for you so there's no misunderstanding. We believe that you have assisted two individuals, at least 2 individuals, but specifically these individuals, in the preparation, instigation or commission of acts of terrorism on the 11th of September. Do you understand that now?
Yeah, I understand that, but I didn't support anyone. I didn't accept any act like this at all.
Time by my watch is 7 minutes past 7. Now shall I conclude the interview? This interview has been tape recorded. I'm Detective
September 24th, 4 days left.
So on day 3, DC Campbell wheels in 3 bags full of videotapes. Now these bags are full to the brim of tapes that have been collected and seized from Bayoumi's properties.
Now, as you can see, we've brought 3 bags, one of a substantial number of videos, and 2 other bags of videos which have been seized from your home address in Birmingham.
Something like 80 videotapes in there. Now this bag is sealed and has basically come straight from Birmingham. Nobody's had a chance to analyse it, analyse any of the videotapes. They've literally, been taken out of the house and brought immediately to Paddington Green.
But the FBI had an idea that these tapes might contain some of the most incriminating evidence. After the hijackers, Nawaf and Khalid, showed up in San Diego looking for al-Bayoumi, he not only helped them find a flat and open a bank account, but according to neighbors, he threw them a welcome party.
Neighbours and people in San Diego had told investigators that al-Bayoumi had some kind of party for them where there was a lot of men there and it had been recorded on camcorder.
And you said to us that you took a camcorder or a video of that gathering, yes?
Yeah.
And so one by one, going through these 80-odd videotapes, it's only towards the end, when they get to number 65 of the videotapes, that al-Bayoumi says, yeah, I think it's this one. In fact, it's 2 tapes, he points out, and together with al-Bayoumi, they start watching them. They say to al-Bayoumi, you let us know when Khalid and Nawaf appear on the screen. It basically shows a very bare-looking apartment in San Diego where there are, what we know now, 29 men. And the video starts with everybody literally introducing themselves. I am such and such. And they are all Saudi officials and dignitaries, some with diplomatic status. It's obviously a celebration of some kind. And they're all basically having a feast. You've got this big lamb and rice.
Makes me hungry, that is. It's like a big turkey.
So they're watching this tape together, and does he identify Khalid and Nawaf at any point?
No, he doesn't. But they are there. Khalid Madar, you see quite clearly in the kitchen, sort of front on, you can see his face, and he's in the kitchen preparing food. Nawaf al-Hazmi, you kind of see the back of his head and kind of fleeting sideways, but his name is clearly said a few times. Greetings, Nawaf.
The tape ends, and al-Bayoumi tells the police officers that neither Nawaf nor Khalid have appeared on screen.
Okay, so as long as you're clear that even though we didn't get what we were seeking on the video, that it was a waste of time, at least we are now clear that the people that we were seeking to identify are not on these videotapes.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
The officers have just looked into the eyes of one of the hijackers and heard the voice of another. But they don't press al-Bayoumi on this. The FBI knew what the hijackers looked like, but it's unclear if they shared this with the British detectives.
I spoke to David Campbell about what happened that day, and he says he really can't remember whether he'd seen photographs of the hijackers or not.
If they did know what the hijackers looked like, why didn't they question al-Bayoumi when Khalid appeared on screen? If they didn't know, why didn't the FBI share that crucial information with them? Whatever the reason, this home video of al-Bayoumi and 2 of the 9/11 hijackers is ejected from the TV with no further questions. And 3 bags of videotapes are wheeled away. And there's something else. Left at the bottom of that bag of tapes is one clearly labeled Washington Trip, 1999. Capitol Hill. Al-Bayoumi zooms in on 2 Lincoln town cars parked next to a side entrance. Their cars. You said that in the plan. This was filmed 2 months after Al-Qaeda chose Capitol Hill as one of their targets for 9/11. What is the plan that Al-Bayoumi is referring to? It would be decades before anyone saw this tape. So Amardeep, Omar Albayoumi has been taken into police custody, as you've been telling us. He was arrested under suspicion of involvement in the preparation, instigation, or commission of acts of terrorism. He's already been there for 3 days, and the police have 7 days before they need to either charge him or release him.
That's right. The clock is now ticking, so things are hotting up. There's also something rather unusual that's been taking place throughout his custody. It's been alleged that throughout his detention, Al-Bayoumi had been receiving visits from an unnamed, at this moment, quite high-level Saudi diplomat who was based at the embassy in London, the Saudi Arabian embassy based in London.
Wow.
And that is quite unusual for certainly a high-level diplomat, somebody with diplomatic status, to actually come in and see a citizen, unless, it's something that's going to affect the government or has real, reverberations and connotations.
So is it unusual that it's a visit from the embassy full stop, or is it unusual that it's a high-ranking diplomat from the Saudi Arabian embassy?
Both really. Certainly the latter really stands out. Okay, if you were involved in the government in some way, you may get a visit from a consular, a commissioner, but not from the embassy. And then to further say it's a high-ranking diplomat, somebody who's got diplomatic official status, that is highly unusual.
I mean, on the other hand, if I was arrested in another country, I would probably take a lot of solace in a visit from, in my case, the American embassy. I'd be really reassured they were interested in my detention. I mean, is there any actual evidence that Omar Albayoumi is connected to Saudi intelligence?
So we do know that Omar Albayoumi had been the subject of a FBI investigation back in 1998 when he was in San Diego. The FBI were reacting to reports from a maintenance man who had visited one of his properties and was doing some work on the sink, I think. And underneath the sink, he reported seeing a box with wires coming out of it, which obviously was concerning. He's then called law enforcement. And then this obviously was passed on to the FBI. They investigated it. They carried out inquiries in the area. They spoke to members of the local Muslim community. And people basically told agents that they believed Omar Albayoumi was some kind of spy.
This is what his neighbors believed.
This is what his neighbors and people in the local Muslim community, people who had seen him at the mosque and in and around San Diego, the fact that he was always carrying a video camera, he had his JVC camcorder with him pretty much at all times. He would film at the mosque, he would film at gatherings and outings they had together, which made people slightly suspicious about him. They felt that he may be somehow involved with the Saudi intelligence services, that somehow he's keeping and monitoring their behavior, reporting back any suspicious or dissident behavior.
What did Al-Bayoumi say to those accusations?
Al-Bayoumi went on to say that he was quite upset by these allegations, that he clearly said that he's not a spy, and talked about, as I said, being upset that people thought this about him.
So the FBI opens an investigation in 1998, and then what happens?
So the investigation winds down within a year, and certainly by 1999, the investigation is closed. There's no further action. Yet none of this was shared with the British police, and certainly not with DC Campbell and DC Ian Dean, who were interviewing Omar Albayoumi. They had no idea that the person they're sitting in front of and interrogating had already been the subject of quite serious allegations and an ensuing investigation in America.
This interview has been tape recorded. I'm Detective Constable David Campbell, attached to the
September 25th, 2001. Albayoumi is reseated across the interrogation table. There are 3 days left to either charge him or release him.
So the next line of questioning, they start talking him about, your time in America, and in particular his finances.
On the 16th of February 1999.
16th February
Yeah. 99.
99.
85
Mm-hmm.
23rd of September, same amount.
So the detectives reveal or ask him about the fact that between February 1999 and January 2001, something like $32,500 have been deposited in accounts that he can access.
What do these transactions relate to?
I'm not sure exactly, but yeah, I have to figure out. Yeah, there is a reason for it.
Each time these deposits are made, they are just under $10,000.
But the reason to us looks as if unknown people are giving you lots of money.
No.
This seems to be large amounts of money, which is untraceable.
Basically, if anything is deposited more than $10,000, it would alert the authorities, and you'd have to explain where this money has come from. But if you keep below $10,000, it just kind of goes through.
2 transactions which were only $15 on one and $5 on the other below that threshold.
So it seems to have been a concerted effort to not hand this money over into his account in one big delivery, because that would alert the authorities.
And we believe that you're being funded and you're funding people for terrorist activities.
No.
Are you sure?
No, at all. No, I don't. No.
You don't?
No.
Think about your answers very carefully, Omar.
Yeah.
By the end of the week, on the final day of the interrogation, the detectives have come to their own conclusions.
So the officers conclude that there are too many coincidences here, that there are too many things that just don't add up. So the police officers put all this to al-Bayoumi right at the end. They say, on the 15th of January 2000, you received a phone call.
We believe that phone call was from the hijackers to let you know that they had entered the US successfully.
They tell Bayoumi that you then went to Los Angeles to meet these hijackers.
We believe that you've taken these people by your car from Los Angeles to San Diego.
They go on to say that you have helped these men.
You have then helped these men, fraudulently helped these men.
You've helped them get accommodation. You've helped them open a bank account.
I believe that during this period of time, substantial amounts of money have been wired to you in the US so that you could facilitate them whilst they were engaging in their activities in the US.
You arranged a meeting in front of a lot of influential people at their apartment.
You've arranged a meeting in their home address, their apartment, with a number of influential people. And you would only do that if you knew these people well.
So they put it to him bluntly. They say that there's 2 conclusions here.
So there's 2 conclusions here. One, that you're a very unlucky man and you have been involved in this unfortunate conspiracy that's gone on. Or the other is that you're a guilty man and you are responsible for killing some 7,000 people.
I'm, honest people, honest man, and I don't want. And I have also I care by my family. The truth will appear one day.
Well,
yeah.
There is only one version of the truth, Omar.
I thought the case stunk to high heaven.
This, again, is what DC David Campbell told Liz and Amardeep in an interview. We've had an actor read what he said to them.
There were too many coincidences. If that guy played the lottery, he'd be winning every single week.
So what do? They decide to charge him.
Well, because it was an FBI warrant, an FBI-led investigation, it would be the FBI that makes the decision whether to charge him, release him. The ultimate decision lies with the FBI, or ultimately lies with the Department of Justice, which in effect is, the Crown Prosecution Service in the UK. They make the decision. So what happens is DC Campbell, DC Dean, together with their 2 superiors, go to Scotland Yard, 15th floor office, where they have a conference call with somebody from the Department of Justice.
I tried my very, very best to convince the US Justice Department that they needed to extradite him.
So that was one of the options, and Campbell, as he's told us, fully expected that to be the option. that surely the Americans will want him back in America. There's so much that he's got to answer for, it seems. So they spend an hour presenting their arguments and recommendation that at least he should be extradited, and they're fully expecting that to happen. And what they're also expecting is that, there's a week worth of interviews here. Surely the Department of Justice will want to look at all of this and see the lay of the land and see where this fits in. And they'll probably give us a decision in a few days, maybe. And so, to their absolute surprise, the person from the Department of Justice instantly makes a decision.
He said there was insufficient evidence to justify extradition.
There and there on the spot, after an hour, the answer is no, let him go. As blunt as that.
I was gobsmacked, shocked. That's the way I felt about it.
At the end of the call, there's a long silence as the officers digest this decision from the U.S. Department of Justice.
I still think about it to this day, and I'm still shocked.
Later that day, Omar Albayoumi, who would always deny having any involvement in the 9/11 terrorist attacks, walked free and returned to Birmingham. 8 months later, Met Police made 2 copies of all of the evidence found at Albayoumi's 3 Birmingham addresses, one for themselves and one for the FBI. But all of the original materials were handed back to Albayoumi. In August 2002, Albayoumi left for Saudi Arabia for good, taking all of the original evidence with him. It would be 10 years before any of it would come to light again.
In 2012, an FBI technician was clearing out a storeroom in a police lockup in Washington, D.C. Buried in an untidy pile of documents and folders in a crate that was marked Al-Bayoumi, the technician looked inside, and what they found took their breath away.
That's next time, on the final part of this special investigation. This series was written and produced by me, Taryn Siegel. You can read Amardeep, Bassey, and Liz Harris's full investigation right now at thetimes.com. We'll be back tomorrow with part 3. The executive producers were Dan Box and Kate Lamble. Sound design was by Tiffany DeMack, with our theme tune by Mal Lassetto. If you have any thoughts on what you've heard so far, we want to hear it. Leave us a comment if you're listening on Spotify, or send us an email at thestory@thetimes.com. Thanks for listening. See you tomorrow.